Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Trekyards. He's Commander Cockings.
He's Captain Foley.
And today is your daily dose of holodeck fun. We're on a holodeck right now. Don't know if you knew that. These sets don't actually exist.
I could touch them because they're holographic, but they're also not real. It's crazy. Tech's advanced so much to it. Used to be, I'd put my hand right through that. It's amazing. So I've never touched it before this episode. My God.
Yeah. So, yeah, we're talking about Season 3, Episode 4, a space adventure hour from Strange New Worlds, where we see a holodeck, very TNG-like holodeck, but regardless, they tried to explain it, and we're going to talk about it today.
Yeah, this is definitely one that in the trailer was our most talked about part. Well, just the fans just reacted when we did our first live, because we do our lives, we discuss with you guys, and people, that was the biggest conversation piece in like a 2-minute trailer. This bit was, and we always do polls and stuff, and that was always a big thing. The other theory could have been that they had a TNG, because Frakes directing it, could have had a TNG connection, which would have been very funny. I know I debated that with you for a long time, because it's just a fun thing to think about. Did they do that? No. Is it a holodeck? Yes. Did they try and make it make sense? Yes. Could they have done more? Yes. Is it bad? No. So give us the backstory about this particular holodeck, because fans are eager to know what the hell they think they're doing.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, they basically caveat it by saying these are usually just on star bases because they require a lot of power and a lot of processing power. So they're testing it on a starship because we have new technology now. We can better warp technology. We can go on 5-year missions where we're not necessarily near any Federation star bases. So we need recreation. So Lon gets tasked with testing this out during an actual mission to see if it's viable. And that's the main premise of this whole thing, which works because when we were speculating about it, we thought it would make sense if this was on a starbase and it was a prototype and they were testing it. So they kind of did that.
Yeah, they didn't go quite as far as say this was a new version. It was just they were putting the starbase version onto a starship, which is a fun limitation because this is the, I don't know, it's an advanced ship of the fleet, but one of the top ships. So if this ship is capable of running the holodeck by bricking the ship, which is therefore not useful, right? It's like if you're rendering on a computer, but you can't use the computer, you can do it, but you've kind of ruined the experience for everything. So that was a good limitation. But that said, it was not new tech. It was not a prototype. It was still that. And it did therefore work on the starbase because you had to work there to think to apply it here, first of all. And that was the caveat at the end, with a dedicated server computer core, which makes sense, and dedicated power, it could work. On the starbases that they have. So that means this tech, in theory, based on everything from the episode, exactly works like a TNG holodeck in the pre-TOS era on starbases. Now, there's not that many starbases, so if that's the limit, but also then it would also work on Earth because you could also put the same power. So there are these on Earth. So we are radically changing canon in that regard versus TAS and TNG, but also not limited not to a ship. So that interesting way around it.
I think they navigated this minefield very well, canon-wise, honestly. They could have done more, as we've said, as we're going to talk about, but they did mention the recreation room. Like Pike called it a recreation room. In the animated series, it's the recreation room, or rec room, and then holodeck is also thrown in the mix just because we got to tie it together. So I love that they did that. Like those are things that they did that I think really spoke to them they're realizing that it's not really a thing, and trying to, like I said, navigate that minefield. I think they did a pretty good job with that. So that being said, I really wish it didn't look like a TNG holodeck verbatim. This is TOS.
No, it's pre-TOS.
Yeah. Have it look more simple. Have it look more TOS, like blue holodeck lines. Like I said in another video, a couple of things along the top when you get that pan up of like the roof segment of the goes nowhere, does nothing, like a couple of those on the ceiling. Like that's all you need. But to make it, because as you pointed out before, It changes for Voyager. It changes a few times. The holodeck grid assembly. So it makes sense that this 100 years in the past from TNG, it wouldn't look like that. So that's my one sticky point that they didn't address and they could have.
Yeah, especially as Strange World tech, like it's doubly funny because Strange Worlds is advertised as a visual retcon, and yet they thought the TNG grid was so advanced it's not going to change it. Like if they, I know it's like we're arguing it's ourselves, but if they are arguing it's looking like it should have, shouldn't they have made it more sci-fi looking? Right? And then we could have argued it goes sleeker. Like, because their goal is to redo TOS, but they obviously think TNG holds up fine, so they're using it. But it kind of goes, whatever. They can't win, but also they could try a little bit harder. Because as I said in another review, all they had to do was have, because I assumed that was the LED wall they were on for holodeck. So, or the literal holodeck they were on it. So it being a black room with lines is just a CGI set they were on. It wasn't a real room. So all they had to do was make the room a third of the size, so you could physically see it as a box, which would then show limitation. The fact that holodecks get bigger, that is important. So much rather than taking up 3 decks of the saucer.
Look like it, yeah.
Because how much of the ship did they have to remove? A lot. Whose quarters to say sorry, Jane, Lieutenant Jane Biggins, we're removing your deck, your entire corridor's worth of crew quarters. We need to install the holodeck. You're off because this thing was presumably installed 3 months ago. There was not free space on the ship. So what did they remove?
Well, like I said in a previous video, they just used up half of Pike's quarters. He gave them permission. His quarters are huge enough that it would fit. It's fine.
But you know what I mean? Like, that is a distinct thing you've now got to find space for. Because the TNG ship is so much bigger that you could just have these big blocks. So if it was the size of, ironically, Pike's quarters, but like not as long, it would be like, oh, this is a big room. It's big. It would have been fine. But had they, all they should have done for the CGI was have metal silver girders with yellow line glows on them. And then white walls. Yep. So you have the visual of the lines, but the pre-tech, within, ironically, the modernization of Strange Worlds with the, I mean, even honestly, like white glass, that kind of plastic look, and then the yellow lines, is how they could have done it. And maybe like a red wall would have 100%. Been fine. So it's odd they chose the one thing. It's like the funnest thing, but also the worst thing. I'm wondering if they explicitly did that to get fan bait on the trailers. Because anything else wouldn't have had the same reaction. Whereas if you do it literal, then in 10 years, we're not going to care. But at the time, you might get 10 fan videos getting 1 million views complaining and get interest.
They could have left it in the trailer and then for the actual episode changed it. Because, I mean, we've seen trailers before, like Solo, a Star Wars story, where they've added or removed characters from scenes for the trailer. And then in the movie, it's just different. So, I mean, they could have done that, but
it involves them having money.
That would have annoyed us too. Like they're actually lying to us in trailers.
I would have thumbs up them on that. But so what do we see from the holodeck? There is no sense of limited space. She can walk anywhere in the space. We don't ever see outside of the area. So, and it's all based on context versus dialogue. If they said the dialogue, like Scotty says, we've been able to load the entire mansion into the processor, but nothing outside. That's as much as we can keep in the RAM, in the processing. So a limitation. Because a holodeck, the idea is it projects as you go. So you can literally walk from one side of the Earth to the other. You're not moving. But the more you're showing, the more processing power you're using, of course. So it being inside a building actually works very well to the idea of limitation, because a lot less to create, at least in theory. But had they said we can't, like, don't look out the windows because there is nothing there because we can't make it. Like, you get characters or you get venue. We can make a giant beach with mountains because it's static, apart from a little sway of grass. But people, we've had to make buildings only. That's a great limitation. Great for training, but you can't just do worlds of exploration.
That kind of explains the vibe I got from the mansion. As I said in our review, I mean, it felt very dark and dingy and tacky and extravagant, but it also felt super claustrophobic, more so than a lot of others, in a mansion mysteries to me. I don't know if that claustrophobic vibe was deliberate, because now that when you were speaking there, I'm like, yeah, I kind of got a claustrophobic vibe from the entire set. It's one of the reasons I probably felt uneasy, because I'm claustrophobic quite a bit. Not just the visuals of the tacky, I don't know. That's actually really interesting.
See, this is why we do Trekyards, right? Because there's context clues, like with Trelane, right? There's clues that don't say either way, so you could argue, why do you ever see outside? Why is there nothing else beyond what you see? Because they can't process it. It's like I wish, in a similar vein, more of a direct tech parallel to modern day. Computers need computing processor units, they need graphics processing units, and they need RAM to store information to do things, right? So it would have been really nice if they'd in this episode, Scotty had shown on a graphic saying, right, we're obviously pushing this, but the ship can dedicate 400 terabytes of RAM, which is absurd, but it's the future. We have 400 dedicated to the ship, which makes sense, right? And then almost like a ticking clock, but like a line graph where there's a red line, an orange line, and a red line. And so as La'an walks through the set, you're seeing from like a top view other parts of the set dematerialize because it can only keep what is in process, because that's what a lot of modern games do. They don't actually store areas around them, because why would you? You're not seeing it, but it all takes thinking of how light interacts. But if they'd said part of the training program that she requested involved the characters to interact outside of La'an's presence, because the narrative's more like interactive, which is unusual for the time, as I'm pushing it, and then the computer has to keep other rooms in RAM and those characters interacting in RAM, and that broke it, because you would need that in a certain way for modern holodecks as in TNG. So it would have been fun. She literally walks out of a room and the things go just not, she never sees it, but we see it around her, to show another limitation. So it's still amazing tech for one person where you are, or two people in where you are, because you needed more limitations. They're implied, but they're not physically there.
Yeah. And like we talked about this whole holodeck thing in our review, so if you want more context, go check out the review. But I'd said there that because in the animated series, it's basically an environmental simulator. Like you can go on a beach, you can go wherever, right? I would have liked if there was a line of dialogue near the end or even in the middle saying that it's the people that are the problem. The computer's trying to actively, maintain and be creative for like multiple simulations of individuals. So if they had said at the end, like, this is, we'll be fine in a starship in a few years, we can probably get the power reserves ready to go. But people are a bit of a problem. Like limited people, maybe one, but just environments or something would have been fantastic. And that being said, too, it would have been interesting if there was a mention of nothing smells. Like you're seeing it. It's like you're watching TV. You don't get smell-o-vision. You can't smell what's going on. I wish something like that was done. They do. I'm going to bring it up again. When she first goes on, she says, I can almost smell the cigarette smoke, or I don't know if she says she almost. I only watched it once at this point.
I think she does. Is that sort of phrasing?
Yeah. And I think that's just because of the environment. Like, she's read the books. She knows what the atmosphere is supposed to be like. But it's kind of, I thought when I heard the line that she could smell cigarette smoke and whatever.
Whereas I took it as the literal, it's almost as if I could, because I can't.
Yes. Yeah.
So I thought that was a nice nod. Because also, like, if this has been on star bases for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, they would know you can't smell in them. They wouldn't need to say it. And that's always a problem in my films, in universe. Like, you wouldn't keep re-explaining things if you've learned at the academy, right? It's not new, right? It's like in TAS, they don't explain what simulator is, they just go use it. It's obviously sort of normal, which is appropriate, right? So I thought that was what that was saying, maybe. Trying to be clever about it.
Yeah, nothing would have taste or smell. That'd be one of the limitations I would have put on this one for sure.
Yeah, which would have either played the story meaningfully or commented on in some way. When the not number one is poisoned, if she had picked up a glass, tried to smell it, and said stuff, if only I could smell, I could see if it was poisoned.
Yes, yeah.
Like that, like something Perfect. Very like, oh, that would have been, and that's a beautiful limitation, because that, like, visuals are fine, right? We can do VR headsets now that can look absolutely wonderful, right? It's everything else around it makes it feel real. That's what TNG needs to lock behind the paywall of the era, right?
Yeah.
Realism. That was the point. They felt cold, they smelled smells, they felt trees, it was real. Seeing it is fine. Seeing it with limitations is even better. So yeah, two other things I'll say that I wish they'd done at the start. I wish they'd stuck to environmental simulator. And at the end, number one or someone says, it's a bit of a mouthful to say environmental simulator. And Scotty says, oh, the project's name is Holodeck. Yeah, I much prefer that. Like, don't have them say Holodeck in the start. Have that be the secondary name so it maintains TOS. That I would have preferred because Holodeck sounds way too fancy. Like that, like her saying Holodeck mid-scene was so jarring to me. Like, oh, what? Right? It's such a right. Like, I don't want to see Holodecks on Excelsior, let alone on this. If you have a comment on that, I'll jump. I'll stop. Or have a second point.
Okay, I'll jump in on that real quick. I do appreciate that Pike did say the recreation room. Like, he doesn't like holographic technology, as we know from Discovery. So, and then Uno was the one that threw out just holodeck. But yes, it was used later too. So,
small thing, but they tried, but then I guess fans wouldn't have known. But I think fans would have known. Oh. So that's the first thing. And second thing, as you said in the last scene, which is very much a shockingly finality to them saying we can't use it, and Pike saying it won't work. And it's more final than it, given the potential. Like, Lyle had a great time.
I think that's a lot of Pike's bias against holograms. He doesn't.
Very fair.
Puts that stamp on it.
But it did work. As the technology worked flawlessly, it's the ship's ability to cope with it was the flaw, and that Starbases clearly work fine. So I wish at the end, and again, explicitness, similar to what you said, but this is how I'm phrasing it. I wish Pike had said, I hear that on Starbase it's used a lot for terrains, could we do that here? And so I was like, oh yeah, with a few minor tweaks and introducing no characters, I'm sure I could get environments working within the week. Okay, well, don't go that. Like, don't make a priority. But you know what? That's worth testing in the future. Like, make it explicitly at the end. Like, this is going to work. This does work, but it breaks, and therefore I would even be fine with doing a single person in the simulator, because that also would be kind of fun, right? Like, they know I can walk into the not holodeck, and have maximum 2 people in 3 rooms, like almost like a math equation. The more people, the less you can do. So the less people, the more you can do, and that be a plot point later. Like, oh, I need a 4th character, but it will take away my ability to sense, smell, right? Like, yeah, that's kind of fun.
Well, it'd be fun in a future episode if they go to a starbase and they want to do something on a holodeck, which would be fun. I mean, I don't mind holodeck stories. I kind of like them. But if they're like Chapel and Ortegas want to do a program, and Ortegas meets Chapel at the holodeck, and she's got like incense with her, an incense stick, and she's like, why'd you bring that? Oh, I kind of want more of the, I want it to feel more real, so I'm going to light this so we can actually have a sense of smell in here, or something.
Or in the exact same vein, because they haven't got replicas yet, technically, in theory, blah blah blah. It'd be amazing if they have a scene later. And okay, it's here, right? It doesn't work, but it could work. It's on the ship. They're not going to rip it out necessarily. They could, they might, who knows, right? If in season 4 there's a scene when Pike invites Una because he's got some dramatic thing to say about something, and it's actually Una's like childhood town, and they just go on location, and they walk in, and she's like, "Oh, Anson? No, Christopher, what's all this? Why won't you feel at home?" She sits down and she looks at the meal. And she's like, "This smells amazing. What did you bring food in?" So like, yeah, this only works. I find this holodecks work better if you can actually smell and experience. So I made all this food fresh. Again, the limitation, but that's charming. You can have a picnic in a field, as long as you bring the real food that has smell. Elevates it a lot. So that I could see being like, that itself is a story, right? Or ironically, which they didn't do for Spock, they could have, if they have a scenario when someone who shouldn't be there has a scent, and that's the giveaway.
Yep. Well,
why am I smelling bacon? Oh, because Derek ate a sandwich. Well, he's not going to be in here. Derek, get out of the hole! Like, it's a fun limitation that ends up playing. You could use.
That actually plays into what I was about to talk about next, with Leon uncovering that it was in fact Spock. She had been spending all this time with him, dancing with him, being close, like holding each other. And after he gets shot, I appreciate the green blood, first of all. But then when she gives him a hug, and you see the look on her face, he wouldn't smell the same. He wouldn't feel the same. There wouldn't be the little micro movements of muscles. There wouldn't be that, because she's been close with him with the dancing, right? So it would make sense if that was the main trigger that made her realize that he's not real. It's like hugging a mannequin because it's just a holographic shell. Like, I wish that would have been mentioned or explored in some way, because it's the nuance. And that's why in TNG Encounter at Farpoint, they're like, these holodecks are awesome. You can smell now. There's nuance. It's been upgraded so much that it's not an issue. Like, that would be cool if that was just mentioned. It's a small thing, but
as I said at the start, just like with Trelane, they don't say certain things,
yes,
which lead us to make that direct. What is she sensing in that moment that's not Spock? It could be A, B, C, or D, or all of the above. So you could easily take, which is them being, I think, quite clever. By you know, yeah, it's a fascinating example of saying we're gonna break canon while at the same time not, and they do exactly that. But the question though for all of you guys before we close out, I was just about to close out. Do you now in your mental canon add on that you can walk onto Starbase One in TOS and use a holodeck flawlessly? Is that now a retcon in your brain? Do you now, because they've done a reasonably good job here, that is now a thing in TOS, which also, now I'm okay with saying in Wrath of Khan even, they still haven't improved the tech that far, and it took until late, like it was such a, like, you know, Starbase level power in a ship took until TNG. You know what? That's a fun thing to say. I could kind of get behind that. But still, holodecks being prevalent around all these eras, is that now something you're adding to a mental canon? Let us know, right? Let us know. Because that also means that everybody in every era, pre that, grew up with holodecks on Earth. Maybe they're rare, but they all used them.
it almost makes you wonder too about the bridge simulation in Wrath of Khan with the big view screen. That was an actual built bridge that they used for the simulation. Why didn't they just use a holodeck? But
yeah, you'd certainly have them in the academy. Either which way, right?
Yeah.
So let us know what you guys think, because it's an interesting thing to add, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Comment down below what you thought about this, what you think about the holodeck situation. I think they did a very good job with it, considering. Yeah, I appreciate that. So let us know, and also make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell icon so you don't miss talks like this. We'll probably cover this live at some point too. I'm sure it's going to come up, and you can join us for that. So make sure you're doing all the things you need to do.
And if you want to support us, supporting you with knowledge and information discussion and chatting at the pub with your friends, which is what we like to do here, then support us monthly if you can via Patreon or join the channel on YouTube. Super important things to do, so if you can, absolutely please do. Or one-time thanks/donations, thanks or tips. PayPal, trekyards@hotmail.com, or Super Chat on live, like this one, about holodecks, we're going to see, I'm sure. Or for anything as well, super thanks on any video. It all absolutely adds up. It means a lot. We thank you in advance.
So until next time, he's Commander Cockings.
He's got a Foley.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.